Alright, so how is it going, everyone? Mari Takahashi, back at it again, doing another video confessional. Just to introduce the gameplay really quickly, the first video that you're going to see is one of me doing much better than I do in the second video. I do pretty good in this first match. I end up going, I think, 23-10. I was mostly just using this gun because I had just finished doing all of these different challenges for all these different guns, and it gave me this cool skin for this gun that I was using, so I wanted to try to test it out and just appreciate it. And then the second game that you're going to see is me being shit on by one of the new guns that they added into this game. It's really good in close quarters combat, and there's a lot of close quarters combat in that match, so I kind of get crapped on a little bit, but it's more of an average game for me. I don't do particularly amazing, and I don't just suck complete ass. But enough talking about Call of Duty, let's talk about Survivor Strife Bounty Islands. So I have some small developments this round, but watch out because I'm going to dive super in depth on them anyways. And I am also trying a different kind of recording this time. I am reading directly off of a script, basically word for word, and we will see if it's any better in the long run. But for now, let's get down to business. A three-person alliance with Fabio, myself, and Aurora is definitely in the works right now. The best way to make these alliances work, in my opinion, is if you make the person who is actually third in the pecking order feel like they're the glue holding the alliance together and the person at the very top. So that's what I've been trying to pass off onto Fabio, because I've stated many times that I stand Aurora. She is amazing, she's a wonderful person, and she is easily my number one, so that means that Fabio needs to be number two in my pecking order, but I need him to feel like he's the one on top. The way that it's all coming together is kind of strange to me, though, not in the sense that I'm really sketched out or anything, but it was funny to me that both Fabio and I were lying to each other despite wanting to form an alliance. Give me a second to explain this. So we started off by just locking it down between Fabio and I, that we both like each other and we both think that we're awesome, etc. Then from there, we both agreed that Todd was the odd man out on this tribe. Then he went on and on about how amazing this tribe is for 20 minutes, which I did too because that's what he was doing to me, naturally. And that was basically it for the first night of us talking strategy. The second night, I was basically like, okay, so you and I are good, Todd is out, that means we need one of Joe or Aurora for a third. So we kind of kicked that back and forth, and I ended up saying that despite me liking Aurora more on a personal level, that Joe might be a better person to play the game with on a strategic level. And then he was basically like, yeah, okay, so let's just lock it down with Aurora then? Which is like, did you not hear what I just said? I basically just said the opposite of that, and you're just ignoring it and going with what you wanted anyway. I mean, it's not like something that I should really harp on, because after all, I did want to work with Aurora over Joe anyways, and my main goal was to make it so that Aurora and I didn't seem as close, which seems to have succeeded, but it was just funny to me how he's the kind of guy that is just gonna order pizza at a party, and then after asking everyone what toppings they want on it, he just goes ahead and orders what he wants anyways. Like, he should have been listening to me more when I was, discussing what I wanted to do with him. And it seemed like this was going to be a problem going into the future too. Like, it's something that I noticed pretty early on, and I'll get more into it later, but the thing is, he did it again. After that, we went about talking how we should approach Aurora with this information. Naturally, I started off by just saying that Aurora and I spoke about how we liked each other and how Todd seemed like the odd man out, but nothing more game-wise, which is a complete lie. To which he responded saying that it was basically the same deal with him, which is also a complete lie because Aurora has told me that he wanted to work with us a couple days ago, and he also pitched to Aurora the idea of looking for an idol together. So that makes me think that Aurora is probably the centerpiece of this tribe, which doesn't concern me all that much. I've given my word with her and her me, and I never plan on going back on that, and it's not necessarily about being at the forefront of your first tribe anyway, so long as you're close with the person that is. In the early parts of the game, it's much better to be closer with the person who is the social centerpiece and just make sure that you're their number one, so that way the target won't land on you, and you'll also be getting all the information that way. Another thing is that Joe and Todd have been increasingly distant with me lately. Joe is always busy and dropping conversations with me, and Todd is just not here, like at all. The hierarchy of this tribe is only just solidifying itself more and more as time goes on, and especially as we win more and more challenges. Speaking of, I kind of really want to throw the next challenge. I honestly think that throwing the challenge could be the right call here. Just like right in my gut, I can feel it. See, think about it this way. After the next challenge, best case scenario is a 5-5-2 split, which still isn't great. I'm thinking that there has to be a swap at 12. There is no way that Vic would allow for one tribe to just like completely decimate itself, which is happening right before our very eyes, and go down to 1 or 0 people. 12 is an easy 2 tribes of 6 kind of split. And if there's a 5-5-2 split at that swap, then we're potentially giving all the power to the 2 on Prion as to which side they like to go with at the start of the swap. I trust my ability to socially bond with people, but I'd rather give them a bit more incentive to work with us. And if it's a 5-4-3 split and we have the 5, fucking forget it. We're gonna get targeted straight out of the gate for that. And if not for that, then also for being social threats. But if we have 4, Prion has 3, and Skua has 5, well then, Prion has a lot more incentive to work with us, don't they? Because then not only will Skua have the most numbers of the OG tribes in the game going into the swap, but they will also be all around great at challenges, and right before the merge, it might not hurt Prion to target some of those bigger challenge names, right? Plus, it helps to show that Corey isn't super close if we lose a challenge. And Todd may be decent fodder if there's a bad swap, sure, but keeping him around also comes with its own set of risks, because I have no idea where his head is at game-wise, and he could just as easily flip on old Corey and try to find greener pastures somewhere else. So since initially writing this script, I have approached Fabio and Aurora with this idea of throwing the next challenge. Fabio did not take to it as well as I wanted him to. He might have placated a lot of the ideas and points that I brought up, but he always had another excuse as to why we shouldn't do it instead of trying to really question why I think we should. It was more so just talking at me rather than talking with me about this idea that I had. This is exactly what he did earlier when he pitched the idea of Aurora and I and him all working together. It was so fucking annoying, and I can just already tell it's happened twice so far. This is going to be a regular thing with him, and I am really not sure if I'm going to be able to deal with it long term. I know that Fabio is very close with Aurora. Apparently he tries to talk a lot of game with her, and I trust that she'll tell me everything that he says and we can kind of course correct him, but I do not want to deal with this regularly. It's so fucking annoying already. You need to listen to your allies. At least consider the options. When I told Aurora this, she seemed much more receptive to it and thought that I brought up a lot of good points, but ultimately it seemed like since Fabio didn't seem on board that we shouldn't go through with this plan. I'm not totally sure if she actually would have done it if Fabio was on board. I feel like she probably wouldn't, and I'm probably the only person who thinks that we should throw a challenge here, but at least she was much more delicate about it with me than Fabio was. I also watched Call Me By Your Name with Aurora, and it only served to further solidify our alliance. She's so fantastic, and I haven't found a single thing that I don't like about her yet. She even made a graphic for us that centers around the movie. I have gushed and gushed in my confessionals, but I've also gushed and gushed to her face about how I never want anything to get between us, that I'll basically tell her everything, and that she may need to bear with me at certain points because sometimes I legitimately forget to tell people things that someone else has told me. It can be a blessing and a curse though. She's just lovely, and I wish her all the best. She also did some intro / welcome questions for herself in her own confessional, and I've been meaning to do those for a while, so I'm going to do half of them now. And for the record, Call Me By Your Name is a very great movie, and I really enjoyed watching it with her. Really great cinematography, just really kind of a slow pace, great to watch, romantic movie. Highly recommend it. So question 1, who do you make happy? And well shit, I hope I make my friends and family happy. I hope I've brought a lot of joy into the Or community over the years too, despite some showings where I very much did not do that, but let's not get into that right now. I hope I've brought a lot of joy to whenever I hang out with my friends, and I know I bring a lot of joy to my family even when I'm just, spending time with them sitting around and we're all reading or watching TV or whatever. I hope I've been making you guys happy while you've been watching me too and giving you guys some good, fun content. Question number 2, what household chore is the worst? And there's just something about vacuuming that I've never really liked. Maneuvering the vacuum can be a real pain in the ass, especially if it's super heavy, and having to deal with the dumb electric cord that goes to it and how fucking loud they are and how it doesn't even give you that much satisfaction when everything is finally clean. It almost always looks exactly the same as it did before you vacuumed it, save for a couple of specks here and there that definitely are gone, but there is not nearly as much satisfaction that I get from cleaning with vacuums as I do with other things like washing the dishes. I can see all the stains gone. Cleaning my room, it feels a lot more acceptable and just able to breathe in there. But when it comes to vacuuming, I just don't get any satisfaction out of it. Question 3, what profession doesn't get enough credit or respect? And for me, I would probably say janitors. Society would just be absolutely disgusting without them, and they're always the one getting down and dirty and literally cleaning up all of our shit all the time. It's weird too because the profession has always been looked down upon by everyone, but it's arguably one of the most essential societal roles, especially during times like this, during a pandemic. Imagine how much worse this pandemic would be without any custodial staff whatsoever. Just think about that for 1 second. How disastrous that would be. Yeah, that's what I thought. What TV show or movie do you refuse to watch? And I would say 13 Reasons Why. I should preface this by saying that I saw the first episode, so I know I'm already breaking the rules of this question, but the way that this show portrays suicide is frankly disgusting. It's not some revenge fantasy that you can use as a tool to make people feel bad about themselves. And the fact that psychologists warned Netflix about this, and yet they refuse to change anything about the show despite that, is even worse. It actually caused more suicides to happen after the show came out, and on pure principle alone, that's not something I want to support. Delicate topics in pop culture need to be handled with the respect and nuance that they deserve. Otherwise, the conversation that those shows start, which is a pretty weak defense of the conduct in a show already, is skewed in the wrong direction. Question 5. What's the most embarrassing story from your childhood? And the one that I think back more regularly than the others is one time in 5th grade. So we were doing PowerPoints or something, and the topic was about ourselves. So we just make a PowerPoint and just talk about ourselves, whatever. There was one girl who said that she had hazel eyes, and in my comedic genius, my comedic brilliance, I thought it'd be funny to ask her if she was Kelly Clarkson, because Kelly Clarkson has a song about that. But unfortunately for 5th grade me, he didn't totally understand how to time a joke, because I waited until the end of the presentation to ask when no one else would even understand in context what I was talking about. And even if they did understand it, it was a very unfunny joke. Objectively terrible. Of course, when I asked her that, she said no, and then the class was dead silent afterwards. And it torments my soul every single day. So what random acts of extreme kindness would you like to see? And honestly, I'm not asking for much. I just wish that people would be more patient in general, at least in regards to others. So many people lose their cool way too quickly, and they blow up at people that never deserve it, who are just trying their best. It happens all the time at minimum wage jobs, and it just doesn't help anyone in the process. You're a shitty person if you treat people just trying to do their jobs like garbage, that you're above them, that they're somehow deserving of you yelling at them. It's okay if you're upset with the service, you have every right to be if it sucks, but that doesn't give you the right to unleash that frustration on someone that doesn't deserve it. That's all I really want to see in the world, just people being kinder to other people. Not curing cancer, not solving world hunger, being kind. Where was your favorite place to go when you were a kid? Cedar Point, easy. Next question. I mean, I've always really loved roller coasters, and every time that I got just an inch taller as a kid, it always felt like I was moving up in the world, that I unlocked multiple new roller coasters to finally be able to ride and test out for once. I went there almost every single summer and I enjoyed myself so much when I was there. I still love roller coasters, but I just get motion sick much easier now than I used to, so it's not as much fun for me, but I still do love them and I still like going on them whenever I do get the chance. Number 8, what quote has always stuck with you? And there's a couple of quotes from The Wire that I want to share. The first one is a more serious one. Ain't no shame in holding on to grief as long as you make room for other things too. I've always really loved that quote since I heard it, both in terms of what it meant to the character and just how it relates to life. That you might not be able to ever truly move on, and you'll always carry a piece of guilt or grief or whatever is holding you back. But as long as you try to move on and trying to push forward, that's what really matters. That's really powerful to me. And then there's also a very funny quote from that show that I think about pretty regularly, in which there's one character that is robbing a poker game, and while he's robbing it, he says, I don't know about cards, but I think these 4 5s beat a full house. Question number 9. What are some things that you've had to unlearn? And I thought a lot about this question for a while and couldn't think of an answer, but then I realized, why I'm answering this. And I think that the biggest one for me was trying to figure out how to win at Survivor games. Because the thing that I learned while watching the show, at least in the era that I started watching it, which is around Kaguyan, is that bigger moves and controlling the game strategically is how you win at the end. That juries respect that more than just being someone that's likable, agreeable, and popular. But after playing multiple orgs and getting to the end multiple times, I realized that that's not the case at all. And it took me a very long time to learn that. It's a lot more about bonding with the jury and being a more popular person than the two sitting next to you. I've controlled games from start to finish before, give or take some hiccups, but that's not what juries tend to care about at the end. Having to pull back and be like, an impressive strategic game may not get me the win, but being more well liked than my finalists will help me win, and ensuring that my strategic game was good enough and not burning too many people to where people will feel justified giving it to me. That will win a game a good majority of the time. I think after my 7th second place, which is 5 too many to finally see the light on this, but whatever, I digress, is when I was really like, okay, I have had this all wrong, because there I played what I consider to be one of my best strategic games ever, and most people just weren't really interested in that in the end. They were more interested in how I carried conversations with them, or like how I maybe turned my back on them. It kind of broke me down and forced me to readjust just how I need to win one of these games. And then 3 games after that one, I ended up getting my first win because I was sitting next to 2 people who weren't as well liked by the jury. Question 10. What's the most unsettling film that I've ever seen? And I feel like Hereditary or The Witch are the obvious answers for me. Those movies really fucked me up, especially Hereditary. Any movie or TV show where there's just like silhouettes of people in the background that you can't totally make out, but you can kind of make out, that's what really fucks me up more than almost anything else in, TV shows or movies. Like jump scares, that's fucking nothing to me. Really fucked up shit happening on screen, like that might fuck me up a little bit, but not too bad. But like, I worked for a while at a recreation area, and at this recreation area, I would need to close up things all the time, and my mind would always play tricks on me trying to mold things in the dark into familiar shapes, and it would always look like people, and it would always freak me out. And Hereditary does that quite a bit. And then The Witch is just, it makes you really feel like you're watching something that you shouldn't be watching. It makes you really uncomfortable at a lot of different moments in the film. I know that there's 10 more questions, but I think I should answer them in my next confessional because this is already getting very long and I want to cut myself off. I'm also really happy that we won the challenge, and I always love a little bit of time off, but next challenge, well, that may be a different story, but judging how Fabio and Aurora acted to my proposal, I kind of don't think that it's going to be. I don't think that bought me any favors, and I just need to shut up and go with the flow, at least for the next round or two.